Yes, this is an
So welcome to Inspire Elsie's
welcome,
Radio.
Eva. Thank you. Hi, Nadia.
So if we can
Uh,
just get
uh,
into the first question, what is a safety mom for people that don't know?
okay, a safety parent. Years back we used to call it a emergency parent, but nowadays they call it a safety parent. A safety parent is a mom, a regular mother that looks after abandoned, neglect, abused, destitute children. Social workers phones you and then they ask you, do you have place for so and so age and sex? And then you would say yes or no. And then if they remove the child due to substance abuse, drug abuse, neglect, or abandonment, and then you take the safety parent would take care of the baby for 3 to 6 to 9 months, pending the investigation. The social workers have to investigate the parents, why, what is the reason, whatever they did, and then with this, Nadia, okay, koi, with this, sorry, Ma, for that, with this, the parents, biological parents, also get a chance for reunification with their children or the counseling, rehab. But after 3 months or 6 months, when the court finds that the mother didn't change, then that child go up for adoption,
Oh,
for foster care.
foster care. Okay, so can you tell us from
So
the beginning, tell us your journey as a house mother? Like, so how does somebody become a house mother? And what inspired you to take care of these babies?
I wanted to
Okay,
ask the same. Firstly, I always had a passion for children. I always loved children. I was still young, very young. Then I would go fetch my neighbors or whoever's child my mommy used to scout. They will papa, easy spiel. And I just had that passion. And as I grew up, there was always children in my life. If it's neighbors' children, community children, I never used to play with the other children. I would always sit with the auntie's baby next door. I was quite fascinated with this new creature, human being that's in that I couldn't understand. And as I grew older, I always had children around me. I always said I wanted a big family. I got married and I lost 3 babies. So the first baby, when I lost my first baby, I heard a clip or something on the radio station. That time it was P4, and they were looking for volunteers to look after children. So I phoned in and I said, "Well, I'm at home. I can look after a baby." But just before the first baby was supposed to come, I found that I was pregnant. And then I found back and I said, this wouldn't be fair towards my baby and the potential child. So I declined. And then I lost that baby. Got pregnant with my second child. And she's now 29 years old. And when she was 4 months, they phoned me to ask me if I am so interested. And I took my first baby. I will never forget her name, Zikona. And that is how it started. And up till today, I'm still looking after children. If it's not child welfare children, social development children, or children in my community, mothers that have to go work, then like I'm asked me to look after as a daycare mother. And that is how my journey started. My big passion. And if there's no children around me, then I'm not Raifa.
So, Raifa, what is a typical day like for you? Um, because these children don't stay very, very long with you. It's not like foster care, it's like interim care. That's what I'm understanding from the situation.
Yes, yes,
So like until
yes.
the social workers investigate the child situation and then only the child gets decided what's going to happen with the child. So tell us about
Mm.
your day to day and like what are some of the things that you lack in this world? Because it's not a government funded thing, so like who helps you?
Um, I'm going to speak under correction, your last statement. I don't know who's funding us, but we get a safety fee.
Okay.
But there's a challenge with the safety fee. You have to wait for the safety fee. You have to phone off the people, social development, and then they have this long story about the social workers that's not bringing in the annexures, the court endorsements. Because if the child is, when we go to court, the child gets placed with you for 3 months. Then you get a detention order. We call it a detention order. It's like a court paper to say that the child is legally in your care. And then the social workers have to take it to social development for their financial, I don't know what they call it because there's such a lot of nitty gritty things. And apparently, the social workers must take it to DSD, and then DSD, social development, they have to pay you out. But you have to wait for it because now I found out about 3 months ago, and I'm speaking under correction. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. This is what the lady told me, that they have to wait on the social worker for the extension order or the court order so that they can process and submit whatever papers so that we can get funding. Now, that is the biggest challenge we have, that we have to wait on the money. And hence, that is the reason why I went on TikTok and I met lovely Nadia, because I never used to ask people. And I was married that time when I started this, and I had a big mobile. I was financially, I was sustained. But with the economics and the stuff that's so expensive, you can't, even a normal parent that is working can't keep up with the expenses of having a baby. But that doesn't put me off. God is so good. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so good. So that's why I went on TikTok and I asked people for help. And I came across a few lovely people, and they are sponsoring me. I asked people not to send me money. They would that they I prefer that they should rather buy it. But with Menenberg also, as you mentioned, of the opening, very challenging. People don't want to come into Menenberg. And then I asked them to
Oh.
come to the nearest point, and that is in Fontaine Road. And then we meet and greet and we exchange, and then I'll get. There is some people, a few that is in Durban and Johannesburg, and they said, no, 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 they can't do that. They would buy through Take a Lot.
Oh.
And then they would send me some formula and some diapers and
Day-to-day expenses. Nori was
medicine
saying
through
even
Take a Lot. I
medicine.
never knew that Take a Lot also have that.
Medicine through Takealot. Um,
Marv,
Nadia was saying earlier to me that your
you
area is
asked me about my
actually
typical day, Marv. My typical day is in the morning,
mm,
Marv.
yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
So you wake up.
Ilani
Yeah.
breaking up, I can't hear.
Yeah. No, we're fine now. This is Raifa Benjamin. She's a safety mom from Menenberg, and she's telling us about her day-to-day life. So what happens in the morning, Raifa?
In the 4 o'clock, by 4 past 4. I got the adhan up in Mason. Then the child, they would wake up, and then they don't want to go to sleep again. They want to know, they want to play. The babies, they want to play. And then they would fall asleep about past 6 or 7. Then I would be up for the little one that goes to creche, or I don't have scholars now at the moment. But when there were scholars, I stay up with the scholars. And the typical day is the cuckoo, choo-choo, and nappies, and vomiting, and drooling, and you know,
Mm.
and hulle so vereeglik is. But it's something I wouldn't change for anything in the world. Um, how they grow up, even if they stay 6 to 9 months, and then there's the challenges when they get sick, the teething. It's like a normal mother, normal day mother, where your children they have their days off days, and they have their good days, and it's all rewarding, alhamdulillah.
Ayo, what you're doing is really a blessing because not many people have the patience to do that. But I wanted to ask you, how many kids do you have at one time?
Really, Casa? 20, 15, I had 14 children.
Oh my word. And like, so where do they stay in your home?
Yes, by that time I lived in Syria. I moved out of Menenberg to get a bigger place. You know, the end of the year, huh? The black people, and I'm not being racist, I just want to mention this. The black people used to come drop their children at Child office because they're going to
Mm.
Transkei or wherever they go. Then they would come drop their children at Child Welfare's office. Here's the child. Because they can't go with the child. That time it was like December, it was like yo, we had so many children. But it changed now with the Child Care Act that you can only have 6 children at a time.
Mm.
Sometimes there is like what is the word now? What is the right word now? When it's maybe siblings, 3 children,
Oh.
and you already have 4 or 5, and then the court would, if they can't find place for the children, then you are allowed, okay, to take on more children, only if it's siblings.
Yeah, I wanted to also ask you about now. You mentioned earlier that Menenberg is considered the red zone area. So,
Yes,
for us that
yes.
don't know what is a red zone, can you explain to us what is a red zone?
A red zone is where there is continuous gang fight shooting.
Um,
You have to duck for your life. You have to sit and eat on your floor. You can't go to the shop. If you know it's gang fight, then you must see to it. If the police is in the area, go buy your bread, your milk. It's like we're in a concentration camp. You have to see everything. It's in your house before the shooting starts. Lots of children have lost their lives in Menenberg, the streets of Menenberg. There's a new thing now. I don't want to speak too much about that. Where they are recruiting youngsters at the age of 8 years old. Um, Stone throwing is now in Menenberg. Children can't go to school or come from school to madrasa to. They can't go to on a weekend. They can't go play soccer, anything because of that. That is what is a red zone. Um, that's why people don't want to come into Menenberg.
yeah, and that makes it very
I've
difficult
got
for
three.
you.
I've got 3 bullet holes in my cupboard. Um, I'm walking to it now. If I don't know if you can see. Can you see that one?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
There's a hole. There's a hole. Can you see that one?
Yeah.
That's a hole there. And then there's a hole there. And in the front
Sure.
windows, I don't want to go into the front with in the room now because everybody's in the room. Not trying to make a noise. There's 2 bullet holes in my window.
Sure.
Oh, Raifa, that is hectic, young. Elsie's River also has the same problems, but I suppose it depends where you are and like if people have access to you. So. How do you and your
Ilham,
community? Yes, Nadia, please jump in.
I want to ask a question because you know where my heart lies when it comes to the Cape Flats. And I'm just thinking around the safety of the children and the safety of you also and your family, Raifa. If I was the government sitting in front of you, or the mayor, or the minister of police, it doesn't really matter because we got one justice system. What would you say to me if I was those people? What would be your message to them? Because it's so sad how many children are losing their lives, and I can vouch for the fact that our own kids at school are gangsters and they're little ones. It is not always the bigger ones, what we would like to think are gangsters, but it's now recruiting with the little ones, and it's so sad.
Mm,
How
mm.
how does the community work their way around that?
Nadia, um, you know, a few years back, 3 or 4 years back, there was shooting so much. We call on that day when they shot through my window. So I was in a panic. I could hear the children at school at Sondering, and I'm not far away, but I am like 10, 15 minutes walk to about 15 minutes walk to the school.
Mm,
It was 10 o'clock that morning. I could literally hear how the children were shooting, screaming in the classrooms. And with the shoot, they were shooting that side and they were shooting in the front of the court and at the back of the court. And I was panicking, and I went on Facebook and I made a live um, recording, not thinking, because I was like panicking, and I had 4 children that time. And they are so cute. The children in Manenberg knows that some children, let me
mm,
rephrase that, some children, they know, "Gaat lê, mamas moet lê, ma lê." They know they must go into a corner and go sit down. And these two boys, Mama, go sit down. I was standing against the wall, and I made this live video, and somebody put it on YouTube, and then somebody posted it to the mayor. The mayor sent these people, I can't remember their names now, and they wanted to come in, put in shutters, because I was crying. I don't want to stay here anymore. Um,
mm,
but where can we go? Everywhere there is shooting.
mm,
So the mayor and his people came, the council came, and they wanted to come put in shutters in my house. You know that shutters that you
mm,
roll up by the
mm,
house, no?
mm.
So I told them, thank you very much. But we are already living so isolated. Now, what if I have shutters on my windows?
Yeah.
If the shooting starts and I must run to roll down the shutters, ek kan mos raak geskiet word. But
Mm,
never mind that. How can a person live in a house upstairs and have shutters in your house? It is most dark.
yeah.
And besides that, what makes me special? Yes, I love these safety children. They are children. But what
Mm,
are different about them and my next door neighbor's children?
mm,
You understand what I'm saying? Why would they
mm.
put shutters in my house, but then the next door neighbor also have bullet holes in her window?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
declined the shutters. But you know, where it all starts with these children that are on the street. If you go in and you go get the statistics of that little gangsters, you will find
Mm,
that most of these children either are in foster care with
mm,
their maternal aunts or with their
mm,
maternal granny or paternal granny. Now, with the 1,250 rand a foster child gets, I don't know how much it is now, it must have went up. 1,000, say, for instance, 1,290 rand. No? You tell me what the granny gets her pension. You tell me the granny gets a pension, what child to child foster care. What can she do with that money? Now that child is in foster care, maybe also by a maternal aunt. There's unemployment, there's drug abuse, all that in the house, because that's what the social workers do. They take the children out of a situation and they place the children in a worse situation.
Yeah.
Because they don't follow up, they don't go to the home visits. You know, Nadia. Now that child is in your house. You can't see to that child's education, but before the education, to proper food. You know how children are. Dinge het so swette aan, maar ek wil ook so swette hê. Mama can't afford.
Yeah.
There is maybe for the first week of Sasa Grant, there's nice food. The other 3 weeks there isn't food. Where do that child go? To the street.
Yeah.
And that is how. Yesterday there was also a clip, I can't remember the man's name, when they also spoke about the children on the Cape Flats, how children get recruited. And I was saying in my house to my Nadia, you see, that is my argument. Because firstly, the children's parents fail them. The parents fail them. The government fails them. And then the system fails them. Where does that child end up? On the street, gangsters recruiting that child. You're hungry. I see that with my own eyes. Just a pair of khakis, a nice tracksuit.
Yeah.
That child feels he belongs. I also have a name brand on it. I belong. Not knowing that he's being recruited for this and that and the other. Because now you owe us.
And also, Raifa, don't you think that in that way, the cycle continues, the cycle of abuse continues.
Exactly.
So it is not, because of that, the child is not being empowered or educated enough to create the difference in their society because they get swallowed up. But there's another question I want to ask you. I have a great love for children and we fall in love with these kids. I got a big heart as well. And I always say to my kids at school, everybody can give up on you, but I will never give up on you.
So true.
But how, you have to, at the end of the day, you have to let that child go. How doesn't that affect you? Because my heart is baie klein. And I can't imagine, like my kids say to me, no, mommy, no, you can't do that because you fall in love with the children. And it is the truth, So how do you do that? How do you manage that with yourself?
It's not easy, Nadia. At first, no? With my own children, I've got 2 biological children. It would be like a funeral when the children have to leave. I can still remember my son it was his matric year. And we had this game, when my mommy used to live that time. Then when there's a newborn coming from the hospital, abandoned, and then they don't have name, then we get the opportunity, we get the privilege to name these babies. And then everybody would get a chance. I get the chance to name the baby, and my son and my daughter and my mommy. So this one little baby, my son, because he was a Christian child, my son named him Delron. And my son was 17 years old at that time. So the morning, He wasn't supposed to leave, but they had a seminar in Cape Town. Some social workers of Johannesburg came down to attend the seminar, and with their chatting and whatever, this one social worker told this colleague that she have a couple. The one is a principal and one is a teacher, but they don't have children and they would like to. They are now her clients. So my social worker said, "Yeah, I've got a baby. Yeah, are you willing to take a Cape Townian child?" And they said yes. And then they phoned me to say, listen, Miss Benjamin, I was still married that time, Miss Prince. Listen, Miss Prince, we have potential parents and they would like the baby, they would like to come see the baby. They came, they saw the baby, and they decided they wanted the baby. It's a newborn baby, was 3 months old. And there they went off with the baby and flew to Johannesburg. Now my son is coming, Nadia. Now my son is coming home from school. He doesn't know Daron is gone. But then my neighbor, and I asked her so nicely, don't tell him, let rather wait till he's in the house and we would tell him. And then she told him while he came from school, he came crying up. I had to comfort him. That was the saddest day. But with all the children, it's very, very traumatizing. And when the children come, I tell my children, and as I said, I only have two biological children. I had 6 foster children. I only have 1 left now of the 6. New ones came afterwards. Then I would always tell them, please, Kanala, don't fall in love with this child because you are putting yourself through a thing. But die dag wanneer hulle kom weer gaan, dan sit hy hele geheiler en ek het chanker, then I have to comfort them. And I told them, don't fall in love. So it's very, very traumatizing. But I don't show it to them at night then, when I'm alone then. But now, knowing that they are placed in a better home.
Yeah.
Not better than my home, but I know that they are placed with a loving. I have 2 children, and I'm still in contact now recently. The one left the 3rd of February, and the other one is the 16th of February. And I'm still in contact with foster parents, and they're sending me videos, and it makes Nadia, I can't explain, man, to see how happy these couples are having this child in their life. And I made it my mission now. Later years, I didn't, so not worry. So now the social workers is doing their job, doing it now 100%. But I have learned a lot. Now, if they come with foster, or I look up myself for foster parents. I do my screening and interviewing and, my investigations. And I see that I am part of it. I tell them, please don't place a child into a single parent. Not that I have a problem, but there's a challenge with a single parent.
It's a struggle, yeah. It's only one income also.
Yes, I
Raifa,
see
we're
now.
coming to the end of our show. We only have 5 minutes left. I want to make the most of those 5 minutes, but if you can change anything in the system right now to make your life easier, what would one or some of the things be that could change immediately that will make your life and the children's lives more easier?
Firstly, I would choke the social workers.
I will.
No, jokes aside, I have a strong appeal. My biggest desire is to help not only children in safety. I am also cooking in my community, helping to feed a child, because I know there's a lot of children that go without a plate of food at night. In the winter, I make porridge for the children before they go to school. Last year, winter, alhamdulillah, I had a winter drive. I cooked for 21 days. What's the right word? Now, agter mekaar, elke dag I cooked 100-liter pot of food because the children is at home. There's no school or feeding schemes. So that
Mm.
my biggest, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, here's a piece of land at the back of me. And this is my appeal to anybody that's listening, um, to the mayor or any government official or anybody that have money or have the resources. I'm going to speak very, very slowly. I know we don't have much time. Here's a piece of land. It used to be Silvertree Youth Club. We used to do karate, judo, modern jazzing, all that, the time when we grew up. There's nothing here in Manenberg. That place is torn down. It's a white elephant now. Apparently, it's private property. I tried to find out who are the owners of Silvertree Youth Club, allocated in Scout Street. There is 3 years ago, I saw all the people running around to go to that place. There was smoke coming. There was a broken down car. I'm just behind it. It's on the premises, but it's like stick. And this one lady said, "No, Raifa, don't go look." And I went there and I went to go look. As I walked, people said, "No, Raifa, don't go, don't go. It's not for you." A newborn baby, Nadia, a boy, a newborn baby was burnt out in that car.
Oh,
So this gangsterism going on, drugs going on that premises. It's vandalized. Everybody's sleeping there. There's walkies. It's just a mess. So my appeal is to anybody that can find out who are the people that own Silvertree Youth Club. It has a massive field. I made a video and I put it on TikTok. If somebody can get me that piece of land, either buy it or whatever, so that I can build, or somebody, but if a place can be built, and I don't want it to be an orphanage or a shelter or a home. I want it to be like a house, a home. A house is a house, a building, but a home, not a home for children that are naughty and whatever. So that I can help more children in need. But mainly for the children that ends up in the bins, the babies that ends up in the bins, drains, wherever they concealment of birth and killing these children, so that they can bring that babies to me. And we take it from there, auxiliary workers, whatever. If I'm pregnant and I want to conceal the birth, if they should come to my house, Menenberg, everybody knows you. But if I on that side of the field, Nadia, facing Dynfontein Road, opposite Celtics Road, it is central. Nobody, if you want to come bring your child during the night, placing the child there, nobody will see you, nobody will know.
Shukran so much,
Rather than,
Raifa. We
mm,
have less
oh,
than a minute now. And now maybe you guys as safety moms and those who do this kind of work can also start their own network and like do things collectively because somebody standing on their own and a collective voice is much stronger than an individual voice. So maybe that's also something you can do because you're so good at and what you do and you're so good at
mm,
like create a network of you guys and like do things collectively,
yeah,
stand collectively together. Nadia, I think it's gonna end now, but thank you so much for this interview.
you're welcome.
Nadia organized this interview with Raifa Benjamin. She is a safety mom in Manenberg.